Okay, hello everyone. This is Master Viktor Neustroev. Today we do our next workshop, and the topic of the workshop is a game plan. Well, maybe game plan is not the most important aspect of a chess game, but in every game you have to find the game plan. Well, actually, I think that the ability to calculate is the main one, the vital. mm, for a chess game. Even if you cannot come up with a plan properly, and let's say you came up with a not the strongest plan, but then you can at least calculate properly and evaluate the position after that, then it makes easier for you to decide whether you are satisfied with the position that you can visualize. And if yes, then you follow this line. If not, you are trying to look for a deviation. Okay, so it seems everything is working. What I ask you is to keep your microphone muted during the class, but if you would like to answer to my questions, you can either do it in the chat or unmute yourself at that moment and then tell me the answer, tell me your thoughts. If you have any questions, you can also do it the same way, either in the chat or unmute yourself and pronounce everything. Fine. This workshop is recorded, so if you miss a part of it, tomorrow I'm going to send a recording, as well as I'm going to make a post in my blog on chess.com with the analysis of the games. So we are talking about the game plan. Who can tell me? Before we decide to look for a plan, what should we do with the position?
Is that black to move?
Well, in this position, it's black to move, but it's just a general question. When you decide, well, when you are trying to come up with a plan, what you should do? Well, first, not about this concrete position, but just in general, in almost any position.
Evaluate
Yes,
the position.
evaluate the position. Thank you. That's absolutely right. And what to evaluate? Well, first of all, material, immediate threats,
King safety.
king's safety, right? So, and then other aspects, what are they? For example, the pieces activity, the control over the center, open and semi-open files, pawn structure, weaknesses, and so on. Yes, thank you. So in details, it is shown in my course on Chessable, which is devoted to calculation, but yeah, I'm going to share once again. So I'm talking about this course, and let me actually do just some explanation. So I'm talking about the course evaluate before you calculate. Later I will send you the link, but what I wanted to show you is this example. I wanted to show you this example. So you see the screen, right? Well, in the first chapter of the course, I explain everything step by step. So material is equal, immediate threats. Well, no threats at the moment. Potentially, there is a chance that black invades the enemy camp. The king's safety. Both kings are relatively safe. Black possess the A file, so that's why black is better in this aspect. The pawn structure is symmetrical for now. However, once the queen reaches A2, A3, the C3 will be under attack. As for the center and the space, at the moment it's equal. White can play d5, but I don't think it favors them. So, and what black should do in this position? Definitely, because when you're trying to evaluate, you see what are your advantages and what are enemy disadvantages. And of course, you see that, okay, your queen can invade the enemy camp, but first let's spin. Then let's invade the enemy camp. And so on. Okay. So it is well explained inside this course. But what did happen later? The queen invaded a2. Okay, next variation. So this, the queen invades a2. Right. Can you please erase your... no, it's bishop f3 first. Bishop f... And the queen then invades a2. And then queen a1 and so on. Anyway, let's go back. Exit, yes. So there is a whole chapter devoted to this evaluation and coming up with a plan. I can send you the link, but let's continue with our examples. I'm sure many of you already have access to this course. Okay, now I'm sharing the screen. Perfect. Okay, this is the link if you need it. Let's now talk about this position. Well, the position is complex. White has extra pawn. They also have two bishops in the center. Black king is better sheltered in this exact position because the white one is a bit exposed here. If only we can attack them with our pieces, for example, with our rooks, he can get in trouble. What do you think we should be doing based on these factors? We can also talk about pawn structure weaknesses, but it seems that the most important factors that we should pay attention to are the position of the enemy bishops in the center, as well as the position of the king on g1. So the king's position is weak, the bishops are strong. And with their queen, they pressure g7. So what should we do?
Sir, bishop b1.
Why bishop b1? Can you please specify?
Because our rook is entering and he has to stop it by rook f4.
Yeah, rook f4 can be played, of course. Okay, so bishop b1, that's right. With bishop b1, we weaken the first rank and we turn the rook away from the center, from the place of action, I mean, not from the center. And now we also allow our queen to invade the enemy camp to d3, for example, to c2 maybe. Of course, we have to keep an eye on this g7 square. We shouldn't move the queen too early. How did they play in this position? So they decided to play this move, bishop f5. Well, is there rook f4? Yes, rook f4, there is such a move, but I don't think it's so promising. If, let's say, this move is played, then how do we continue? White cannot take the bishop. White cannot take the bishop because it is a check, so that the queen can go back. And then, for example, this. Well, and then the queen goes back and defends there. So you sacrifice the exchange, but what for? The king appears safe. No, the king actually is checkmated. So you can try to take on g7 first. This makes a lot of sense. But the problem of this move that they have intermediate rook e1. This is a check, king moves, and in this position they can capture on g2. So the bishop on b1 is protected. What
Sir,
about,
please put this static question.
can you repeat again?
Sir, can you please make the puzzle again
Make the position what? Which?
from the starting?
From the very beginning?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what for? Okay, take your time. Think about the position. Bishop b1 was played. Let me try to solve the problem with my mouse. It's working slowly. So two bishops, the king, now it's better. Okay, bishop b1, rook f4, rook e1, king f2, rook e8. Okay, bishop b1, rook f4, rook e1, king g2, and then rook f e8. Very nice idea. Yes, you then threaten with rook e2. Perfect.
Sir, the starting position.
So this is the starting position, and what was your question?
Sir, is there any other move?
Yes, there are. You can play
Nice.
knight e6, for example. You can play knight e6. It's likely to lead to exchange of the knight for a bishop. Then you may take with your rook. You lose on b7, but then you have some counterplay. You can play rook e2, for example. But bishop b1 is better than others because bishop b1 isolates the enemy rook from the place of action, as well as makes the king's position weaker and generally weakens the first rank. That's why this move looks better. So bishop b1 was played. Bishop b1 was played. Well, they played bishop e5 to close the e file, knight e6. Now, well, what they can do? They don't have to take on e6, but they may. However, if they will, we can take with our rook. And again, there is still no tactics with bishop g7. What they can do? They can capture on b7.
Sir, when bishop e5, why can't we go to bishop f7? Knight f7, sorry.
Well, yes, we can. But what for? Yeah, knight f7 makes sense, then the bishop would retreat. Well, okay, knight f7 is a good move, actually. Bishop goes to c3, covering e1. That's a possible way. Well, knight e6 is good too. If queen takes on b7, the knight goes to g5. You are threatening to take on e5. How do they play? If they move, you can invade the enemy camp with your rook on e1, as well as with your queen on
The
c2.
queen takes g7.
Queen
this
takes
position.
g7 is a must, yes, but it loses. Bishop c3, for example, shouldn't be good neither. If this move, how can you win in this position? I'm debating whether a knight f3 should be played. I think you can checkmate with your queen here. So let's
Sir,
say
rook f1.
rook f1. Then bring your queen, and because you're covering this, you can then continue with checkmate. So the king goes to so g1, f2, then you can bring the rook. So if he goes to the second rank, you bring the rook, and then you deliver a ladder mate. So if they go to the first rank, then you can still do the same thing. Because of your knight, you are covering these squares. Let's now talk about queen g7. Well, queen g7 fails. They have to take, but then again, you have intermediate check, the king moves, and you up a piece. Same as bishop g7 earlier. Fine. So queen d6, that was played in the game. Queen f5, threatening checkmate. That's why they blocked with this move, with bishop f4. Let's decide how to continue in this position. g7 is no longer a target, and black can do almost everything he wants.
D5 maybe.
Which move? G5.
Yes, sir. G5.
G5.
It's a G5.
Yeah, G5 may work. Let's see. In the game, I think it was played a safer move, but G5 in this position, how they can play? Capturing on a6 doesn't work. Well, rook h5 works. But then it's still fine. You can, for example, continue with queen g6. The rook is in a danger. This is under attack. Yeah,
King
g5
G6.
works. And king g6. King g6 is
On
better.
rook h5, king g6. Yes.
Sir, in this position we can, sir, please, sir. Sir, knight into bishop we can do. Knight into bishop.
Once again, I didn't understand it. So king g6, g4
Sir,
no.
knight into bishop we can do.
Knight takes bishop, you cannot take it. Ah, you mean in the previous position, instead of doing this move, you can take there. No, you still cannot. There is this. No, 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 no. King g6 or queen g6? I think queen g6 is safer. It's a double attack. And black is winning. So g5 is possible to knight g5 was played instead. So black decided to not weaken their position. Queen b4. Now this is under attack. The bishop on b1 is under attack. And bishop e4 was played. So trading this bishop and invading using the light squares worked here. So bishop e4, rook takes e4. Well, taking with the queen on the one hand is interesting, but then it's bishop takes g5, a discovered attack. And finally, rook e2. So now locating the queen on c2 or on e4 would lead to a disaster. Queen d6. What do you think? Can you continue with this move? So you're threatening with a mate.
Queen d5.
Yeah, most likely it's queen d5. It still should be winning. 5, rook f. Yes, so queen d5. Yeah, the idea is to play rook g2, king h1, rook f2. Now this is captured. Oh, this is a check. Okay, it doesn't work as I wanted. Fine. So that's why, what should I do? Rook g2, king h1.
Rook d2. Oh, it's protected by the bishop.
Yeah, so
Rook takes a2.
yeah, rook just takes a2 is the best move. So rook a2 was played in this position. Here it makes more sense rather than queen a4 because the queen can go to c2. And there is no need for black to exchange queens. So when we have the attack, we definitely shouldn't exchange queens. Queen d5 was played anyway, queen c2. They tried to create a counterplay with c5 move. Now how to play?
Knight e4.
Why?
It blocks the diagonal of the queen.
What do you expect white to play after knight e4?
Maybe to capture the rook. It's, I think so, kind of forced.
So to capture the rook on a2, but is it this is a queen sacrifice?
It's kind of forced, I think so. After
There is
knight e4.
there is no defense, you mean? Okay, just one more thing that I should do. So can you please tell me what's your FIDE rating is? Knight f4 blocks the queen's defense, right? And then they can hardly defend the position. This is a very good move. That wasn't played in the game. There are some other options that work too. So in the game, it was played a rook d8 move. How does rook d8 work? Well, rook d8 is a distraction, so they played bishop d6 to not move their queen, because moving their queen leads to a disaster. For example, rook d8, queen takes b7, then rook d1 would lead to checkmate. Now queen f2 becomes a threat, or rook f1 and then queen f2. So they played bishop d6, rook e8, threatening to play a rook e1 move, rook e1, queen here, queen takes f2 mate. That's why they had to exchange queens, and after that, it's completely winning. So after this move, it's simply knight f3, and this is where white resigned. If he did that, that would be checkmate. Okay, fine. Well, what this game was about. This game, just one more time, let me repeat what was the main concept. So here, first, we try to evaluate the position, and based on it, we decide what our plan should be. We base our plan on the evaluation and by recognizing what advantages and disadvantages we have. So our advantage, for example, is the enemy king's position. So black has some issues with the king. It's more exposed compared to our king. We already have the rooks that can potentially join the attack. And based on it, we come up with a plan. First move that we play, we isolate the rook with this move, which allows us to bring our pieces into the enemy camp and attack the king. So everything is done on the evaluation. Just a quick repetition what happened in the game. Bishop a5 was played, blocking the e file. Knight e6, not the very best move. Knight f7, for example, was better. Queen d6 allows us to threaten checkmate on f1. Then bishop goes to f4. Well, g5 can be played, no doubts, but knight g5 was played instead because knight g5 covers these squares. So it's easier to checkmate using the first and the second rank only. Queen b4, some counterplay. We have to bring the bishop back, but then the complex of light squares over the king is weakened, and we can take advantage of it. Just make sure to not capture with the queen. So take with your rook, then bring your rook to the second rank, and then let your queen to attack g2. For example, rook c2, queen c2, and then just distract the enemy queen. So doing knight e4 looks stronger, and then they have no defense of g2. Fine. Let's continue with the second game. What about this position? white looks better by the first glance. They have more space. They have a stronger bishop on e5. There are some ideas of the king side play, maybe making some pawn movements. Not sure about f5, but h4, h5 definitely yes. The king seems to be well covered, but black pieces are defensive, so this king is more exposed, but I don't think that black can attack. Only if their queen goes to the second rank, it becomes possible. Moreover, we have the position with bishops of opposite color, which tells us that if we exchange major pieces, it's likely to be a draw, even if we veer a pawn up. But here, material is equal. So how to play in this position? Let's come up with a plan. We have more prospects for the kingside attack, but at the same time, what should we do? G7 is definitely the object of the attack. Okay, Johnny has a suggestion of doing queen g2 followed by h4. Sounds like a plan. So you play on the king side. This is exactly what is required in this position. Yes, on g2, the queen is more flexible. It attacks b7. I see that it's protected, but anyway, it's better. So what was played in the game? Well, if you start with h4 right away, then they can make a kind of a fortress. So h5, h6, rook goes back. I bring the rook to g3 because I want to prevent queen e3 as well as to bring my rook to the attack. Now, let's say king h7 and g7 is protected, so it looks fine. But this pawn movement, I cannot say it's helpful. That's why let's start with the queen. It was played queen g4, attack in e6, so bishop f5 was provoked. g7 now becomes a little weaker, and the queen still goes to g2. Again, there is no clear plan that wins the position. Step by step, white tries to improve and get some counterplay. Well, they have the main plan, the attack of the g7 pawn, as well as they should create a counterplay on the other side of the board to apply the so-called principle of two weaknesses. So, sorry. Let's go back. So in this position, I'm saying that b7, e6, and g7 are potential targets.
I think so. G6 can be played.
G6 for black can be played, but then what about h4, h5? Because if the h file becomes open, there will be checkmate there on h8, or if not checkmate, just a dangerous attack. Any other suggestions?
G6, queen a3, h4.
So you mean for black, g6, queen e3? That's a possible plan, but if you play this move, be ready for a rook maneuver. Because b7 is a target. Actually, first of all, after g6, it does make sense to play c5 to stop any queen movements, as well as to threaten with
And
c6 and
queen,
the queen.
queen cannot go to a3. No? Why? Because the g7 is weak and it comes directly with a check.
What comes with a check?
No, if you move your queen a3.
Rook g7 is a check.
Yeah,
we are talking. Yeah, we are talking about g6 as the first move and then queen a3.
No.
So yeah, g6 makes sense, c5, but then this pawn is the object of the attack, and I also aim to open the file. And my second task is to play on that side, so invade and attack weaknesses. It's hard to play for a win, I absolutely understand it, but this is what can happen. If white wants to win, and white should be playing for a win, here, all their activity is either with c5 or d5. So h6 was played, rook goes back, king goes to h7, it looks like a fortress, now g7 is protected enough. Moving the pawn makes no sense, because you can move h4, but then h5, and then what? So it will be impossible to occupy even g6 after that. So that's why the h pawn will be more a weakness rather than a pawn that potentially may offense. Instead, white plays d5 to create a pass pawn. It should be continued with e takes d4, c takes d4, and then b5 with some counterplay, d6 b4. So they also have a passed pawn. But instead, black chose a passive continuation, rook f7. And what do you think? How should we continue this time?
Maybe d6 followed by c5.
d6 followed by c5. Okay. Okay, so yeah, d6 restricts the queen. g6, c5. Queen c8, then what? This pawn is under attack. Okay, so definitely rook c3. Okay, Eros suggests to sacrifice the pawn but play h5. Oh, I see the point. Eros unfortunately doesn't work. You lost the pawn there. Now they play queen c2 and you don't have enough resources to capture on g6. And once they trade queens, the attack on g7 doesn't work at all. Well, it's still interesting. For example, this rook c7 is going to be played. They play bishop a4. You play rook c7, and they play this move. This is where white is stuck. Okay, so no, rook c3 is logical with the idea of playing c6. In order to stop it, black has to play queen c6, and after the trade of the queens, this rook can now invade the enemy camp. That was played, but a little later. I would actually start with h4, but in the game it was played h4 to stop g5 move, king g8, then rook b3. And then this king goes to the center. So the pawn is protected, the king goes to the center. Looks like this is maximum. Now the king cannot progress. So what white should do? How to play for a win? The c6 is protected, a7 cannot be attacked. These are potential weaknesses, but how exactly we take advantage of that? We need somehow regroup our pieces. What can I also say about this position? So black pieces are stuck. So let's say you play a random move, let it be just any random move. They don't have a counterplay like that, because if this counterplay happens, it's rook c7. And now they don't stop your pawn. So they can only stop your pawn if the bishop is on this diagonal. But the problem of the bishop is that once the bishop moves, the c6 pawn is lost. and then it's losing because two pawns come together. So that's why black doesn't have any counterplay. Only white may play for a win in this position.
Plan can be a4, a5, a6, and then occupying the open file and putting rook at b7.
A4, well. So a4, let's say they play a6. Let's start with bishop g2, first a5, and now they play a6. You can try to attack with rook b6, but they will play bishop f1, and once you play rook b6, they will play this move. And if you're going
Rook
to
A8.
retreat, what's the purpose of rook a8? Rook a8, bishop f1, what then? So rook a8, bishop f1.
Bishop h8. Trying to come with the king e4, e5, sorry.
Akhand, may I know your FIDE rating?
Why?
What's your rating?
I'm unrated.
Unrated?
FIDE rating.
What's your national rating or chess.com rating?
Chess.com 1600.
So why you with 1600 suggest the moves according to the first line of Stockfish?
What?
Please, no, the moves you suggest are the first line of Stockfish. Even in the first position that we discussed, like knight f7 was the first line, knight e4 was the first line. Well, knight e4 is quite obvious, but knight f7 is not. Here, bishop h8 is the first line again. So please turn Stockfish on and rely only on your understanding on the position. So I hate cheaters. So if I see that again you suggest according to the first line, I will ask you to leave our meeting. So here, well, actually, bishop h8 should be played right away. There is completely no need to play a5, a6, a4, a5, a6. That was a plan. But unfortunately, such a plan is paired with a 6 move, and then you have to execute the original idea, which is bishop h8. What's the concept of bishop h8? With king e5, we can replace the bishop to e7. And then it allows us to attack e6, as well as deliver checks to the king and invade f6 and create some mating threats. You see how it went. So actually you won. In the game it was a5, but let's now discuss something else. Let's say they just repeat moves, bishop d5. Well, we can try, I don't know, a4, for example, like you wanted, reach the pawn there, but we are not going to play a6. The pawn there will be the object of the attack. Bishop d5, king goes to e5. Let's say they just repeat the position, bishop goes to f6. Now what? If they play this move, then rook h8 with rook h7. And, well, let's say this, rook h7, the king has to protect the rook. If we trade, I think it's likely to, well, it's still possible. We are still winning, I think. But it's better if we play this move, because after king f6, rook h8 is just a winning strategy. Even if they just create an escape square for their king, this and this is still checkmate. But even if it wasn't checkmate, we would promote the pawn. So bishop d5, well, okay, that move wasn't played. I just illustrated you the plan with a rook and bishop relocation. So the key idea is that king f5 allows the bishop to then go to f6. Then we can move our rook to h7 and set our bishop on e7, letting our king to invade the enemy camp and create mating threats. That's why black realized it and played e5, sacrificing a pawn. Well, you probably know that in the endgame with bishops of opposite color, extra pawn may not guarantee a win, but not this time. This time, again, the king takes, and it's almost the same strategy. This, bishop f3, and, well, bishop f7 is possible to play, but they played bishop g5. Well, why bishop g5? I'll show you later. So rook h8 is a threat, and after this move, it will be better to play rook e8. And you can even trade rooks. But be accurate with trading rooks. It's definitely winning, but you should be accurate because with more pieces on the board and bishops of opposite color, you have more chances to win. So this move, f5 was played. If they take on f5, for example, what happens? This is the key move that breaks the connection between these pieces. So g takes f5, and what do you think white can do? Rook c7. There is no bishop g4, so rook takes rook, and then the pawn is promoted. Even if, let's say, somehow the bishop was there, it's still winning. You can play this move and capture this pawn. Or you can play this move, then king d7 and promote. If they check on c8, then king e7 and king d8 and still promote. So that's why bishop g4, and then f6. Now we have two passed pawns. If the king goes there, I think it is a disaster after this move. Then rook h7. How does it work? So, for example, it's hard to suggest a good move. They cannot make a rook move. They should play with the bishop. So let's say they play this bishop move. And then this looks good, but there is a better suggestion, bishop h8. And with bishop h8, you threaten mate, and I don't see how to defend. The only defense I see is doing this, but, well, the bishop is hanging first. Okay, let's say the bishop goes to h3, for example. You do the same, he does g5. This is definitely losing. You can take with any of your pieces. So what is better? Let's take with a pawn. They play king g6, and you win anyway. How? This. King goes to h7. And after g6, no, after g6 he takes there. Okay, no. Then let's play rook e8, and after you play rook e7, you should be able to win. Rook e7, f7 then. What else? Well, almost anything is winning here. Even I think that rook g7 wins. Rook g7, this move, in order to let the king to pass, and then this allows you to win the game, because the king is tied down to g8. Fine. So what did happen in this game? The position was very close to equality, but white had some better chances on the king side.
But you don't you think in that variation there will be problem because black will be having the h pawn?
No, I don't think it's a problem. So, for example, you mean, well, they have to keep their king h4.
Bishop g5, bishop g5. Okay, you can move h4. Yeah.
This. Bishop c8.
Yeah.
Well, at least I have this. He cannot take because I promote.
Yeah,
king g8.
He can, yeah.
This. And then I win a bishop. Nothing can stop it. Even if I don't play g6, I think this move is sufficient. Why this move is sufficient? Well, because g8...
You will be promoting g8.
Yeah, so they have to
Sir,
sacrifice.
because bishop, sir, because if bishop checks, we can easily capture it, and we have a good pawn structure, so we can easily promote the queen, and
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah, so first of all, we can do this and stop. Second, we can continue with king f7 and then checkmate. Well, we can also promote g8 check, d8 check, and then we stop the pawn. Okay, fine. So let's go back to the very beginning. What did happen in the game? So some kingside activity, pressure on g7, combined with the activity on the queen side, the principle of two weaknesses, c5, d5, d6, or in our case, d5, d6, and then c5. That stopped the counterplay. And that allowed us to transfer the rook to that side, after which we were able to invade the enemy camp and detect pawn weaknesses, leaving our opponent with no counterplay, but ourselves with a plan of improving our king. However, this position may seem drawish if you don't see this plan.
But is there any chance black can activate his rook in the beginning itself by moving b5, a5, and exchanging one of the pawn?
Well, it was possible to do it much earlier. So, for example, here after d5, if they trade and then they play this, they would activate their rook, and this is where we are slightly better just.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, that was the best possibility for black. Okay, let's continue.
Thank you.
This is for black. So black has minimal advantage in this position. What's their minimal advantage? Their bishop is better than the light squared bishop of white, because it can play on both sides. This bishop is passive enough. What else? The pawns are on dark squares, these pawns are on light squares, but our bishop is already attacking g3, but the enemy bishop is not. They have a passed pawn, but looks like we can successfully blockade such a passed pawn, so it's not a big issue. And of course, the position of the king is weak. Oh, okay. So Marek attends our Friday classes, and this Friday, 2 days ago, we learned that this setup is the best when it comes to the major piece and games. Perfect. Okay, so fine, let's continue. What do you think? What our plan here should be?
Plan should be to somehow capture the f2 square by putting queen at f6 or bishop at c4, c5.
Yeah, like queen e7, queen f6, bishop c5, queen f2. But, well, I'm sure they will defend it by bringing their queen to the second rank, maybe with queen c2 or queen e2.
sir, we can play f5.
We can play f5, but well, it makes the bishop really bad, but I think it improves their chances to a perpetual check. So queen e2, and they want to invade our camp. As for, yes, well, bishop g3 then, so probably queen e3. Queen e3, there is queen e3, I think so, because there is queen e6 then. Okay, so f5 may look good, but it is not. You may play this move, but later. Now I think it's queen e3. Okay, good question by Alan. Why better structure favors heavy pieces? Well, because it's easy to defend one pawn, the f7 pawn, which can defend g6, and g6 can defend h7. So the pawns are not weaknesses, and having the queen supporting it or having the rook supporting it is enough to keep this pawn safe. And this piece, which does the defense of the pawn on f7, becomes also active, even if it's
And
there.
one
or-
one more plan can be how to use the open a file so that we can bring our queen to give a check and then finally take the initiative.
Like that.
Yeah.
So this can be the plan. Fine. Yeah, I think they can parry it. Once you do this, they can do what? Queen b3? No, I think they gonna do something else. So queen a7. I was thinking about this move originally, but looks like it doesn't work because the queen can block checks, so there is no perpetual check.
Sir, we can also play from black side before this move. Bishop to c5.
Yeah, we'll talk about bishop c5. So queen a2, but then bishop g2 looks like a fortress for white. Bishop c5. So you want to start with bishop c5. How does it work? You want to play this move. Can they play queen e4? Or instead they can try this and then bishop g2. So regrouping pieces would save the white's position. What did happen in the game? It was queen e7, exactly. So we should bring our queen to the open file. What happens then? King moves to h1, it's fine. Queen e5, king goes to h2, so to be ready to use the bishop, and queen f6. The queen f6 move is played in order to attack h4. The g3 is pinned, and what do you think? How white should play? It's still not too late to play a proper move and then get a kind of a fortress and save the game, but a proper move is required.
Sir, if any. No, sir.
I think
Sir, please
queen
take this move.
e4, queen e4,
Yeah,
queen e4.
guys, it would be really good if you do not interrupt each other. So for such purposes, you can also write it in the chat. For example, like Arush does. So queen e4, then queen f2. That's right. I think Arush, you're absolutely right. Queen f2, queen g3, and so on. Okay, so queen e4, queen f2, queen g3. No, it fails. So it seems that you have to make a king move in order to avoid the pin, and this allows you to save the pawn on h4. Just if the king is not under a pin, it looks safer. Well, but the question is where to make a king move.
Sir, we can move the king to a1.
h1. h1
a1.
actually, which
Yes,
a1?
h1, h1.
h1. Queen f2. Queen f2, and then you don't save this pawn at all. And you even don't have any chances like of a perpetual check because there is no perpetual check, king f8, and well, anyway, they can play queen g3, defend there, and threaten mate, as well as threaten your bishop, because after they take and g6 is protected, you don't even need to calculate any potential perpetual checks. So
Sir,
that's why it's not king h1. Huh?
Sir, if we play king h1, the queen plays. Sir, why don't we play queen to f1
What for? But you lose a
for
pawn on,
exchange?
you lose here, there is a threat.
Then we'll again try to exchange. Then we'll again lose a pawn. Yes.
Well, then you are stuck to h2 and you lose all other pawns. So king h1 doesn't work.
And king g1.
G1,
G2.
okay. G2,
G2.
okay. So there is a huge difference between G1 and G2. So can you please find a better one and explain why this one is better? Okay, but while you are thinking, after queen f6, let me show you queen e4. This queen g2 is not a draw because you lose two pawns. like that. Also, there is no queen's trade if black doesn't want. They can continue with this move. Now the queen has to block where. Doesn't really matter where, maybe on g1, maybe on f1. Oh, I think it actually, no, it doesn't matter. Then queen e4, this, and now you can capture the pawn on h4, and so white is 2 pawns down. With queens, it should be completely losing. Even without queens, it's losing. No, when the bishop was on e6.
I think king g1 should be made.
G1, okay. So here, queen g3, where is the draw? Queen g3, bishop g3, threatening here, threatening there. It's not a draw. Okay, so king g1. It was important to play this exact move. The game would continue with an unpleasant check, but it's just a check. The bishop is no longer attacking g3. That's why something like that. Bishop g3 and queen g1 is not made. Bishop g2, I mean, and queen g1 is not made because the king escapes. So it was risky, but if you calculate properly, it looks fine. Instead, in the game was king g2, and the main mistake of this move is that white blocked their bishop. Now their bishop doesn't come to the game, and during the next few moves, black takes advantage of an extra piece. Queen b2, and this is where he resigned. Why did he resign? Well, how to play? So king here, it's there. And queen g3 then, or queen h3. King there, it's the same move, queen h2. Then bishop e6, still queen g3 wins. King to g1, bishop c5. King h1, queen f2, threatening checkmate. In order to defend against this checkmate, they have to bring the queen to the back rank, and then it loses g3 and then h4. And finally, king h1, just the same strategy. The g3 pawn is lost anyway. And after this pawn is lost, the other one is lost too. So, for example, this, you take with a queen, this time to trade queens, because it's checkmate if they don't, or you take there. So, and then d6 doesn't help. h4 is lost anyway, but then the bishop is able to blockade this square. So 3 passed pawns definitely win the game. Fine. So the main idea for black was to activate their pieces and use the inability of this bishop to participate in the game. Let's continue. So white to move, the game between Vasily Smyslov and Alexander Matanovich. So what do you think? White has more space. Black has several weaknesses. What are they? So f7 is a potential weakness. b6 is a kind of a weakness. So there is a weak square on c6, a weak square that can be occupied as f5. White, well, the key idea is that white has more space, and let's take advantage of this extra space. How should we start first? There is no quick win, of course, and because of that, you have to play slowly, strategically, maneuver your pieces. So the kings are both safe, but this king is not castled yet, which favors us more. Okay, so d6 is a backward pawn. Yes, but we can take advantage of the backward pawn only in case if it is located on the semi-open file, but the file is closed. We have a pawn on d5. We may take here, and this allows us to get a pass pawn, which is good for the endgames, but this is not the endgame. And I'm sure that they can initiate a blockade with their knight. If so, it's not such a beneficial trade for us. So after doing quick evaluation, you should realize what's your plan. Any suggestions? Okay, so in theory, I would love to open the position, but I don't see a good plan. Did continuation. I can restrict the black further with a 5. Okay, restricting with a 5 makes a lot of sense. What else? Pawn trade on a5, break on a5, and disrupt pawn structure. So, okay, so a5, definitely yes. So first you size the queen side, and if you are not sure which exact plan to play, at least play what you think is definitely logical. a5, knight bdt, yeah, that makes sense. They cannot play this move. What do you think they can do? So if they, for example, continue with this move, how should we play in this position? This guarantees a weak pawn on a6 for the endgame. Again, I'm not saying that you should do it immediately, but why not? And once they do this, knight b6, for example, this is a poison pawn. So f takes, this, aiming to bring the bishop there and take advantage of the pin. So maybe that's why they take here with the queen. But then it still looks good. What we can do, we can either continue attack on the queen side by doing this, as well as adding pressure there, or we can focus on the king side. What did happen in the game? They took queen a4 check, knight blocks. This exchange happened. Now this is a passed pawn, and white trades queens. There is no good retreat with the queen, so that's why they decided to exchange. But now a6, c5, and e5 all are weaknesses, and they can be easily attacked. Luckily for black, they can be protected with the knight. So we undermined the enemy pawn structure, creating several weaknesses. How to continue? Well, first of all, white decided, well, rook b8 was played, white decided to retreat. It covers the b3 square, allows us to play b3, to be able to use our bishop on e3 or somewhere else. How to continue? Let's regroup our pieces, because I don't see that they all are doing well. For example, what this knight is doing. If you decide to go to f5, I think they will play this move, and after knight f5, bishop takes f5. Or maybe actually g6 can be played, which this time, well, it deserves attention. It still weakens dark squares. It's fine. So knight h4 can be played, but maybe then you have to retreat back. Any other suggestions of how to play? Knight d2, b3, a5, c6. Good point. Knight d2, knight goes there and there. In such a pawn structure, the best square for the knight is usually d3, and it's easier to achieve d3. Well, you attack both knights here as well as open the file, so knight e1 was played. Black didn't know what to do, so they started a kind of attack, but white keeps flexibility. Now if h4, g4. If instead it's somehow g4, g5, then you can play h4. No, of course, maybe if they play g5, you take with a bishop, but if they support g5, then we can just play h4 once they play g4. Castle, knight goes to d3. Knight b6, the pawn is hanging, we protect it. It was also our plan. That's why we located the rook there. Bishop b7. No, bishop a3, this is a weakness. They have to defend it one more time. We may attack. Now they defended everything, and black pieces are tied down to their weaknesses. What do you think we should do?
Sir, knight to a4.
Knight to a4, and then? So with knight to a4, you have how many? 4 attackers, they have 3 defenders, but don't they trap your rook? Yes, guys, you are correct. So create a new weakness or create a second front. That's right. You definitely need the second object of the attack. So, well, knight a4 allows us to attack, but then makes our rook vulnerable. It could make sense to do this. Knight c5, but I'm not sure if you are ready for a sacrifice. It's not, it's favorable for white anyway. But you can get it prepared if you want. So let's play this move first. Now they played bishop c7. We should move back, bishop d6, and bishop f3. So what is the strategy of that? Bishop f3, with bishop f3, we aim to play on the king side too. And they have no counterplay. They are tied down to their weaknesses. Because at a certain moment we play rook a5 and they again have to protect there. We can also play knight a4. So rook a5, bishop c8, activating the rook, but bishop d1. This bishop was not doing anything on this diagonal, but on d1 it stops here as well as prepares g4. So g6, prophylaxis with the king move, king g7, and defending the pawn. Black doesn't know what to do, so he just moves there and back. And then looks like we made all helpful moves. What should we do then? G4. That's absolutely right. We should make a break with G4. So the second front, that's right. So we are going to take and isolate it. So they have to take, and then they played knight h7 to stop g5, because after that, knight h5 would be a mistake. The h5 pawn would be a weakness. How to continue?
Now I think knight a4 can be played.
Yes, but knight a4 or rook bc8. Anyway, you did a great job tying all these 4 pieces. So these pieces have to stay and protect. You no longer need your rook. So let's
And now
move.
g5 and bishop g4.
Ah. Well, I think they will play this move. So you can take en passant, but this knight captures and doesn't look so promising. When the pawn is here, f5 is impossible. They lose a pawn with such a move. But once you play g5, it is playable. Yeah, rook a2, and we move the rook to the king side. We may. So bishop e7. They played rook b2 in the game. It's a preparation. This is hanging, so bishop f3. Knight goes back. And king f1. So why king f1? To let the rook pass and continue the attack on the king side. So you can quickly bring the king back, for example, play this move, double the rooks, and invade the enemy camp on the king side. Because white has more space, such a strategy is likely to benefit white. This is where they'd better play knight g5, bishop g2, so protecting on e4, f6, maybe the rook goes back, they can play knight f7, and then it's really tough to make a breakthrough. Maybe again it should be not this, but this, and this. But then it's not clear how to bring the second rook. So it would be tough for white to play, and but black did play f5, so they wanted to play for a win this position. However, it seems that instead they'd better just keep this fortress and try to prevent the white's ideas. Well, when you play against a player who is a little weaker than you or much weaker than you, what you should do is you should let him come up with a plan and let him show his strength. So if, for example, let's say I was recently playing in the tournament, I was like trying to dominate, I was creating threats, but my opponent sees these threats and he defends the position properly. However, once the threats are over, then he started making mistakes because he realized that, well, he should create a counterplay, but because he is not experienced, he is not as good as in calculations, he, instead of playing proper strategies, starting making strategic mistakes, and this is what I could take advantage of. So when you don't know what to do, let your opponent play. Play a few moves, regroup your pieces, maybe it doesn't improve your position, but that may let your opponent to play for a win and make a critical mistake. For example, this move is already a mistake. You can capture, deliver a check, and then unexpectedly the king is under attack. King goes to f6, but bishop h5, and you threaten with a discovered attack. F takes e4. Now rook g6, king goes there, so first knight f2. They played this move to cover this, but after knight e4...
Before playing the white knight, can you... Sir, on this
So
move we can just do a counter. Yes, sir.
g6,
Rook to g6.
and then?
Sir, now we can play rook to g7.
Well, they can take there.
Rook into knight.
Yeah, just a sec. I'm trying to figure out what is
Not
better to play. Well, I can play this move actually. You have bishop g6. Yeah, bishop
yes, sir. Yes,
g6
sir.
looks strong. Okay, if so, I play this move instead.
If you play this move,
So you can
I
take
would
on
just capture
c5.
the knight with the... Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will just
No,
take the
again,
pawn.
again, there is a check. Rook
Checkmate?
f7. Rook f7.
Rook f7, knight f6. So it's
Sir,
not
I think we
checkmate.
should not...
So capture there, but then so bishop takes, rook takes c7.
Sir, clicks.
Because this time I'm not sure if it's winning. Let's say, how do they play? Take the rook or maybe take the bishop actually.
Sir, then we'll take the rook. again?
No, the bishop.
The
If you
bishop
take
check,
the,
yes.
The
the
bishop.
rook,
I mean,
yeah,
I
take
skipped
the bishop, and then well, a6 is a weakness, so it should be fine.
the position.
But don't you think black is a piece ahead now?
Black is down exchange, but yes, I think white is winning. Okay, so maybe rook c7, rook c7, then knight takes c5. I think it's
Yes, sir,
better
knight takes.
that
Yes.
bishop takes, and then knight f6. So it's not fully winning. But if you play this move, then you are winning. So just knight e4, and for example, king e4, just d6 is fine. Or no, just rook f2 is okay. Well, what are we talking about? There is a checkmate. Yeah, you agree? Oh, yeah, there is a checkmate. Bishop g6 is not. Knight c3 is checkmate, right? Simply mate in 3
Yes, sir.
after knight e4. So it's definitely much better. That position that you suggested was with slight advantage for white. Okay, so fine. What did we get from here? You don't know what to do? Try to create weaknesses in the enemy camp by undermining pawns, by ruining the pawn structure. And focus on the attack. Once you, for example, tie your opponent down to the protection of one pawn, open the second front, for example, like it was there with g4. And when you don't know what to do, your attacking resources are over, let your opponent play and show what he wants. Most likely, he makes a wrong plan and you will take advantage of that. Okay, so we still have a few examples. However, let me show you. So first of all these workshops are free. However, if you like this content and if you want to support, you can do it by making a donation. So let me send you the link and explain how it works. You click the button, a new pop-up window appears. Then you can enter the amount that you want to donate. It can be any amount. Then you click PayPal. It redirects you to your PayPal account. You have to enter, and then your money will be automatically delivered to my PayPal account. There is the second option to do it through Wise with this link. However, then you have to be registered in Wise too. And of course, if you purchase my courses, that would be also a way of donation. So for example, I have several courses on Chessable. The one that I recommend is Evaluate Before You Calculate. This is related to the topic of our event today. I think I've already sent the link to you. And also there is the Chess World website, where you can find my courses or even any courses. So you click here, store, and then you can, for example, search my courses by just entering my name here. So there are a lot of courses. So how to purchase? For example, let's say you decide to learn how to play what? Max Lange attack. Let's say you click add to cart. And then do not forget to use a coupon code Victor60, which allows you to get a 60% discount. Okay, fine. So let's continue. We still have two games to analyze, two game fragments. Oh, it seems I didn't send the PayPal link. Just a sec, here it is. Okay, two more games. So this one where Efim Geller was playing with white pieces against Vlastimil Horde. What do we see in this position? So this pawn on e5 offers more space for white. Their pieces are better centralized, especially the queen on e4. So the pieces are active. They can attack weaknesses such as f7. The queen can also go to that side, but at the same time, you shouldn't make your queen passive because it's easy for them to defend f7 at the moment, but you may consider such a possibility. What is the plan? So definitely advancing the pawn, exposing the king, and not with the idea of delivering checkmate to this king, but with the idea of creating, well, opening the king's position and then making checks which allow you to win pawns.
I think one plan can be f4, g4, f5, pushing these pawns in this side and then creating a pass pawn.
How? So f5, they can at least ignore it. Well, but
But
this
but
allows
if you
you.
ignore it, this allows a very weak pawn on e6 itself.
Yes, a pawn gets better on e6. So this is a possible plan. I don't know if you need g4, but maybe yes, you do need. Also, once you do this, you can play
Exactly.
f5, f6 to weaken h6, and then you attack it with something else because of your better queen placement. Probably you can do it. So yeah, sounds like a plan. Anything else? Okay, thanks, Alex. I'm reading all comments in Zoom and YouTube. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed my courses. So what do we have to do? Well, the other strategy can be g4, g5 actually. Not using the f pawn, but trying to create this as a passed pawn and maybe attack g7 because the bishop then will have to stay there on f8 protecting g7. But first the game started with queen f4 move, attacking there. The queen goes to d7, and this allows us to play such moves like king c2 and b3. Preparing. Moreover, b3 first because there is no queen d3 because you take there with a check immediately. And then you have enough time to secure your king's position. Also, just maybe taking the bishop is sufficient. Not sure. Well, king c6. I want to take the bishop, but I don't want to. I think you can take the bishop. You can take on e6.
You'll get the perpetual if you take the bishop.
I think not. Let me show you. So this, king c6. Now I take the bishop. Where is the perpetual? Queen c3, king d1, queen b3. Because this move, king goes further. Okay, maybe this move. King goes further. Another check. King goes there. Another check. King goes there, and no more checks. So it seems that the king is relatively safe on g2, and then queen f3 does a cross check or blocks any checks. So queen e6 first, and then take the bishop.
But I think we should capture both the pawns with the checks, the b pawn and the c pawn. Just do that. Yeah. Now what?
Ah,
check.
you mean
check.
okay. So
yeah. Queen c3 check.
Queen c3 check. This.
This check. Yeah.
King
and
e1.
queen c4 check.
No, this time.
Queen
This
c3
time.
check. Queen c3 check.
Fine.
Yeah.
Bishop d2. Ah, you can
Queen
take there.
d2 check. Yes. Again
Oh,
check.
the h5.
Yeah, the h5 check.
But then there are no checks.
I think I have enough of them.
No, that's all. Yeah, so after queen h5, there are no checks. You can try repeating the
Yeah, you
position.
can, yes, repeating the position. Yeah.
Yes,
Again,
then
again check.
Queen e5, but again, checks are over. And being down a piece,
No, now I can take queen h5.
yes, but then it's this. I'm threatening with a cross check. No, it's losing. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
losing.
there is no possibility of queen d3, f7, and then the bishop are too important. That's why they played king d8, but now we play king c2 and we stop any invasion. King goes to e8 in order to untie the queen. So, because now the queen can do some activity, but the king does protect f7. That was a good strategy from black, but still queen e4.
Now
Bishop e7.
a6, a6, b5. At least we should also try to open up from this side.
a6, b5? Well, it opens
Yeah.
your king.
No, but at least I have something to play with. Otherwise, I'll be completely tied up.
Well, so this is the case where I was saying that yes, let's give black a chance to demonstrate their strength. So, well, you're losing here. Well, if queen d8, I
King
take
up.
there. No, no, no.
No, 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 no.
King up.
King e6, right?
No, 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 no. You cannot play like that. It's over.
Okay, yeah, it's over.
So you have to block. Then I can take on
No, no,
a6. There is
just
no.
hold on. Go to moves back. Just go.
Yeah.
Just after a6, just hold on. A6,
So
yeah.
a6.
A6, just hold on. Yeah, just hold on.
And then what do you want to play with black to get a counterplay?
I think it should be the same color bishop. Can't we? Can I go for queen exchange? Queen c6.
Queen c6. Don't you think it's losing? I'm not sure, but I think it is. Let me check your other suggestions. So Alam. Uh-huh.
I think at least black will be able to put up some resistance in this.
Now queen c6, b takes c6, g5. Most likely pawn takes, bishop takes. The king goes to e4. And then I will play f5. I'm not sure if you can build a fortress. Maybe there is a chance for a draw still. It's not losing. But, you see, you have to play queen c6. And for this strategy, you don't need pawn to a6. You can play queen c6
Okay.
right away. So a6, b5 definitely doesn't work, but you can trade the queens.
Yeah.
You can offer a trade at any moment. Bishop, maybe that was a possibility, but g4.
Okay.
So g4, f4, f5 is the plan. Queen goes to c7, f4. Well, bishop h4. Now they wanted to make this bishop better. And what do you think? How should we continue? How do they want to make this bishop better? Through e1 probably. So g5 now is a suggestion. I think it's a good move. G5, h takes, f takes. Then what? Can they play bishop to g3? Then
But,
h6. So take to be able to control this. And
but now queen into e5.
no, queen e5, queen takes e5, bishop c5 also. a7 is hanging. This passed pawn should decide the game. I think bishop e5
I
should
said
be
bishop
played.
a5. Bishop e5 can be played.
Yeah, so then h7. And the bishop is tied down, so this is my strategy. Maybe you can play f4, but then I can play this move. Now bishop h8 is a must. No, let's go back. Okay, so f5, I can do this. I think it can be a draw, actually. So queen e7. No, queen e7, this move. And if queen d8, I can capture on f5 or c5 or b7. Maybe b7 is best. And if king f7, then queen f5 is a check. So queen f6, I can trade.
I think queen f7 directly loses the bishop. No?
In what?
Queen f7, king f7, king f7.
King f8? Ah, you mean,
okay. Earlier. King f7 directly loses the bishop. No?
This bishop is hanging. No, I think queen f5 is the best.
Yeah, queen f5.
And then c5. Because I don't want to lose the bishop on e3. Okay, so g5, yes. In the game, it was played interesting move, king d3. What's the purpose of this move? Coming closer with the king and preventing bishop e1. If now bishop e1, let's say, is played, then there is... well, I wanted this move. But it seems to not work. So this, but queen e3, and it's equal. So bishop e1, I should probably continue with king e2 first. The bishop moves. Maybe to c3, and then I should consider g5. It's the same strategy, actually, but with the king on e2. I don't know what is better. Maybe the king on e2 defends the bishop on e3 in variations. Fine. Anyway, b6 was played. Looks like a solid move, but weakens light squares. And f5 was played. Not g5, but f5. Bishop g3, f takes e6, f takes e6, and this allows us to invade the enemy camp. However, this pawn is weak.
That was the initial plan which I was discussing.
Yes, I remember. So what to play? King f8? King e7 is not possible. King d8, what about king d8? King d8, queen e6? I think still playable. No, well, let's say king d8, queen e6. Queen e6, queen e5. So yeah, let's trade. Oh, and then there is an invasion. Yeah. The king invades the enemy camp, and this may allow us to win.
Biggest problem is all black pawns are on the black square, and
yes,
white
exactly.
has the dark square bishop.
Most likely it's winning.
He'll lose all the pawns.
No, he doesn't lose all of them, but yes, white can attack on one pawn, then switch to the other flank.
After exchanging the queen, if he exchange the.
Okay, so queen, king d8 doesn't work. Queen f7 was the best move. That would provoke a queen straight, then this, but this looks like a fortress because I don't see how this bishop invades the enemy camp. So let's say bishop e1 stops before, but g5, take, king e8 just. And it looks like a fortress. There is no bishop d8 move. While this bishop can move, and there is no b4.
But now you don't think there is an entry for king?
No, I don't think so. Which entry?
After
like
this?
That?
No, say first bishop e3.
So bishop c3, let's say.
King f4.
Okay, let's say this.
Definitely.
And then I go back.
Or say not king f4, that time king f3 was possibility or not?
No, king f3, the pawn is hanging. So yes, you're tied down to the pawn. That's the biggest issue. Okay, so there is a good point that g5 is playable in this position. As for g5, I'm not sure. With queens on the board, they can take on e5, and then this king looks in the danger. Okay, anyway, so queen f7 was the best way, actually. Maybe the game would end in a draw in such a case. But in the original game, it was king f8 move. Now queen e6, queen e5. No, bishop e5. If queen e5, there is what? Then there is the king's invasion.
Yeah.
So bishop e5, king e4 anyway, threatening to take with the queen, of course, but if there is a check, then with the king. Bishop h2. How to continue in this position? What do you think? So now, in order to win, white should continue their attack. Let's bring the king into the attack. So bringing the king there ties enemy pieces, and we can activate our bishop then. So king f5, bishop g3, bishop d2, regrouping it. Bishop h2.
But don't you think the minute king will come here, he will like have the opportunity to exchange? But now king invasion is already there. So
Yeah, so that's why trading to queens means the game is over. So here the game continued with this move. They played queen f7 and realized that it's actually losing because of the king being there. So there will be a Zugzwang at a certain moment. For example, g5, h takes g5, bishop g5. Well, and this is the
And
plan.
I think, sir, I think we should exchange our bishop. After this position,
How to exchange our bishop? We shouldn't move our king back to f4.
No, not this. At this move, black plays something. Please play something from black side. I say. So we can put our bishop to f4. White
no,
bishop.
Bishop f4.
No, it will be a problem for white.
Exactly. So no, bishop f4 is not playable. But it is
100% draw. 100% draw then.
I think this is a winning plan.
Yes, we can do this.
Then we can come closer to this pawn. Okay,
Yes.
but let's go back because I didn't like the idea of these bishop moves. Let's just play king g6. Why not? How do they defend the position?
Bishop e5.
Bishop e5, right? Then g5.
Takes.
Yeah, then bishop g5, and it seems like this is a checkmate or something similar to a checkmate. So, well, let's say I just want to show you. So h6, take. The king has no moves, they have to block, but then it's queen f6, and the bishop takes g7, or queen takes g7, you win a piece. That's why well, a5 was definitely a mistake, but is there a defensive move in this position? I only see a queen sacrifice. Or not a queen, a bishop sacrifice. Yes, it seems it's over. So king g6 and g5 and then h6 is the winning plan. If they ignore it, you can play h7 and promote a pawn to a new queen. Fine. So, oh, it's not the end. We have very last example. This is a short one. Yeah, okay. White to move. What do you think white should do? Plans actually can be very short. The plan may consist of 2-3 moves, or can be as long as like 12 or even 15 moves. But usually when we do planning, we consider something from 3 to 5 or to 8 moves. So here white pieces are definitely better. There is an outpost on c6. Yeah, that's right. Queen b5, rook a7, and b4. Almost. First, bishop h3. Then queen b5 and rook a7. And this traps the queen. So the plans can be even shorter, but a lot depends on the position. Yeah, I mean, your plan should depend on the position. This time, you see you can trap the queen if you don't allow the queen to go to these squares. So you have extra space. The enemy pieces are placed quite badly. So you can invade the enemy camp at least with rook a7. That is a plan. But together with this, you have an idea of trapping the queen. So they played this, and then simply resigned because there is no defense against rook a7. Oh, white is a pawn up in this position. That's true. This also works. So, well, that was our last example. So I'm sure you are satisfied with today's workshop. What I want you to remember from the workshop is that before coming up with a plan, don't forget to evaluate your position and come up with a plan based on your advantages and disadvantages. So your plan should let you to exploit your advantages and do not let your opponent to take advantage of your disadvantages. Okay, so thank you for joining and hope to see everyone next Sunday at our next workshop. So tomorrow I'm going to send the recording. Bye-bye.